North Carolina. I've also been the broker and owner of two firms in my career. Now I coach agents all over the country and help build my incredible company, Epic Realty. And from time to time, these people think that I have something to share and ask me if I would teach a class for you guys. And I'm always grateful for the opportunity to pour into agents. That is part of my mission is to help as many agents as I possibly can. If you guys can imagine back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and I first got started in real estate, we didn't have as many resources as you guys have available to you today. We did not have as many mentors that are willing to help you as I when I got started. As a matter of fact, my MLS was still a printed book that looked like a phone book that came out every 2 weeks, and that's how we had to find out which houses were available for sale. And we were the gatekeepers of that information. People had to come to us and find out what was on the market, and we were the ones that would send them houses for sale because they were not accessible to everybody. If you fast forward 27 years, you guys have the power of everything at your fingertips, and so do the consumers, right? The consumers are more prepared today and have access to more information today than I ever had in my career. And what that means is we're dealing with a lot of clients that think they know everything because ChatGPT told them, or they have access to so much data that they've done the research on Zillow, so they know everything about the market. As I see some of you laughing when I say these things, but are you dealing with clients right now that believe that they know more than you do? Anybody dealing with that? No, you're so lucky, Felicia. Like, I can only see six of you at a time, so I'm trying to go through and scroll through to see who's nodding their head yes or no. But what I'm noticing is that the clients are becoming more and more difficult. It seems like they have higher expectations of us as agents. How many of you have ever had a client say, well, they didn't even help me find the house. I found it on my own. Has anybody heard that? I hear it a lot. And one of the things that I know is that that is the mindset of a lot of these buyers is that they think that our value is in opening the doors and helping us find the houses. But the reality is that they have access to all of this data. They don't need us to help them find the houses. They need us for the rest of it. They need us to help them navigate this transaction. They need us to help them protect them and their liability and their money. They need us to help them point out processes that they're not familiar with because some of them have never bought a house before. Some people have never even sold a house before. They've bought before but never sold. And that being on the other side of that is a different experience. Also, your local market also determines how fast things are moving or what the nuances are in your market. Do sellers pay title insurance? Do buyers? Are there things that customarily the seller pays for? Our consumers may not know all of that information. They're relying on us to do that. So I didn't have necessarily a theme today like I normally do. I wanted to have a chat. And Robert tried to tell me, please don't have a chat because those are usually our lowest attended classes. But I'm confident that you guys are already in the room, so you're stuck here anyway. Let's have a talk. And I want to kind of just flush out how we're feeling about some things that we're seeing and whether or not you're seeing them. And if you're not, it's okay. I want to prepare you because they're coming. If you haven't seen it yet in your market, I promise you it's coming. And so I want to prepare you for it. I want to talk about it and I want to get some opinions about what you think. So the first one that I want to talk about is the fact that real estate is changing fast. I know that most of you have experienced a shift in your market in real time over the last year. Some of you in some markets, I'm still seeing multiple offers. I'm seeing in certain price ranges that there are multiple offers. I'm seeing that it's more competitive in some areas of the country and in certain price ranges. So let's just talk for a second. If you guys will, I'm hoping that you guys are able to unmute yourself. My first question for you guys is what is happening in your market right now? How can you summarize what the market condition is like in your market? Tell me as if I were a buyer what I would want to know about what your market is. So start by telling me where you are And what are the market conditions in your market right now? Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
I love that. Thanks, Keith. Hi, good to see you. I've missed you.
Yeah, I've missed you too. Finally starting to get my time back. So,
Love it. Love it. It's the most
um,
precious commodity we have. So, talk to
for
me. Tell
sure.
us where you are, first of all, because not everybody in the room knows you. Tell us
Right.
where you are and tell me about the market conditions that you would want a potential buyer or seller to know what's happening in your market right now.
Okay. So I'm located in Camden, Tennessee. It's kind of just west of the Mississippi River, the Tennessee River, Kentucky
Okay.
Lake area. And in my area, I've noticed like, well, over the last several months, it definitely has shifted. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are experiencing the same thing, but what I would probably, what I've been telling people is that it's shifted towards more of a balanced market in this area.
Okay.
Houses are sticking on the market a little bit longer, and I'm seeing a lot more negotiations within contracts. So
Okay.
just things to be aware of. Buyers are asking for closing expenses and certain concessions from sellers. And, if for a buyer, that's giving them the opportunity to possibly negotiate on price and terms. And for
Okay.
sellers, it's just something to be aware of that their house may end up sticking on the market a little bit longer. And also to be aware that buyers are asking for certain things,
Love
so
that.
yeah.
Love that. Perfect. Thank
After
you so
that,
much,
you'll be
Keith.
able to, you'll
I
be
can
able to
go
sign it,
next.
notarize
I
it.
would
Oh,
love
you
that.
guys.
Please do.
So my name is Andrea and I'm in Houston, Texas. And I'm sorry, my colleague is talking in the background. So hopefully you can hear me. But what I've been telling my sellers is that buyers today are not wanting to put in work on the properties. And
Correct.
if they have to do work, they are going to nickel and dime you out of every cent. So what we want to do, I want you to be prepared that once we go on the market, if you do not fix the things I'm telling you to fix, or if your home is not the modern gray floors, white kitchen, the look that everyone's going for right now, then
Mm-hmm.
it may sit on the market a little bit longer. The homes
Mm-hmm.
that I have that are going quickly look just like that. So if you
Yeah.
don't want to upgrade that, I definitely understand. But let's just be prepared that buyers are going to want that. So we're going to be longer on the market than other properties.
Mm-hmm.
And we may be lower than other properties just because buyers right now are wanting to walk in. They're very picky and they can be right now
Love
in
it.
our Houston market.
That's all right. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I appreciate it. I love the way you presented it too. You empowered the seller to choose for themselves what's most important to them, getting the most amount of money or time on the market, right? And the reality is that the longer you're on the market, the less likely you're going to get the most amount of money, right? So you're empowering that seller. I love that you presented it that way. Felicia, I'm coming to you for a second because I taught you something that I want to make sure you can share with everybody else. What is something that I taught you on a listing appointment to give a seller to give them two lists? One is do you remember what the lists are? One, you're giving them two lists. When you go in through a house and you are evaluating, you're giving them your white picket fence list and a non-negotiable list, right? Can you explain the difference between those two to people so that I know that, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you're not comfortable, it's okay. But if you are, unmute yourself and tell them what's the difference between the white picket fence list and the non-negotiable list.
Okay, yeah, white picket fence is move in ready. Let's sign and go. I recently did a showing on a house that was so bad. I don't even think the home was insurable. And
Oh,
this agent was hounding me for feedback. And I thought, if you don't have anything nice to say, you just don't say anything.
mm-hmm. So
And
I've always said this just isn't the right fit for my client with the condition that it's in at the price that it's at. And that's enough where you don't have to beat them up and say, oh, it's infested with fleas or all the
right.
things that
You don't
right? It's
you
just
don't want
not
to
a
be
great fit.
offended.
That's
Yeah, you
right.
don't want to be offensive to anybody.
Right.
But I told her, I said that, my client will not be submitting an offer, and I thought that was enough.
Yeah, and that it usually is. That's enough feedback. But the white picket fence list, I'm just going to take back for a second. The white picket fence list are things that I would like as your agent for you to do that are going to help you improve the chances of you selling your house. These are all my recommendations that are going to maximize the value of your house that I would like for you to do. They're my requests. It's my white picket fence. In a perfect world, if you had money, time, and energy, you would do these things, right? To better prepare your house for the market. The non-negotiable list is the hard part. The non-negotiable list is the list that if you don't do these things, I'm not taking your listing. My sign will not be in the yard. And is it Andrea? Is that how you say your name? Is it Andrea? Her face just turned. She went, "What?" And here's the point. I said that on purpose because y'all, you guys are being invited by sellers to invest your time, energy, and your money in marketing a property that you only get paid for when it sells. So if somebody is not willing to remove the junk from the yard, to deep clean the house, maybe remove some of their personal items and declutter the house, they're asking you to invest your money to market a house that you already know is not going to show the best way that it could. So
If
what
it's
I'm
that
telling,
bad, they're a
yeah,
cash offer client.
correct. And it might be a cat. If they're not willing to do the non-negotiable, I might have to go to an investor. I love that. Thank you, Felicia. I will tell you that as a listing agent, you guys need to have a non-negotiable list and a white picket fence list. And you're going to advise to that seller, if you're not willing to do my non-negotiables, we might not be in alignment with each other. And I may recommend that you end up hiring someone else. Now, Andre looked at me and kind of said, "What, girl, I'm not walking away from a listing." But here's the point. I don't want you investing your money in a property where the seller does not value their role and does not take responsibility for their role in preparing their home for the market. What I'm seeing, remember I said these clients are pickier now than they've ever been. They're more demanding. And it's not just on the buyer side, it is also on the seller side. And the seller is demanding results from you, but you have your hand tied behind your back because they won't do the bare minimum that you've asked them to do. Stop taking the listings where people are not doing what you asked them to do. Tell them, stop investing your money in a property that is overpriced because you did not win the battle on the price and it is not in the condition that it needs to be in. Keith, tell me.
I can second that because I've taken listings that, it took forever to sell. It was very frustrating. I spent a lot of money, ended up losing the listing after it sat on the market forever, and whatever situation changed. And it was just an extreme waste of time and money and effort and my sanity.
Mhm.
So yes, I completely agree that, if a seller, I've gotten to that point now, after learning, my learning lessons of
Yes.
taking listings that I know, the seller's not gonna comply, with the
Yes.
certain things, whether it be price or if I suggest some certain repairs or different things that need to be done, at least if even just cleaning the house really well,
Right.
I'm just not going to take the listing, because it's just too much.
Right. And you're not going to satisfy a seller because remember, the seller is hiring you to produce a certain result, right? The
Exactly.
result is a successful sale in the time frame that they want at the price that they want, right? With terms that are acceptable to them. But if they are not willing to scrub the baseboards, you want me to invest thousands of dollars marketing your property when you won't get a sponge out and clean your dirty baseboards? I'm just trying to advise you guys that you need to have these two different lists so that you are setting expectations for your seller about the kinds of listings that you take and how to best help them position their property for success, for sale. And they're relying on you to tell them what it's going to take. Now, I'm going to tell you, some of these sellers are not open to your advice. They are not listening to your advice. They still are under the impression that we're still in 2023 or 2022 and they can just put a sign in their yard and it's going to sell. Well, some sellers got that memo really hard and the hard way they learned that lesson last year when their properties expired or sat on the market for 190 days and they ended up taking a reduction of 100 grand off of the price in order to get it sold. Not everybody is going to get that message quickly, but I guess I'm here to tell you that just like you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to, you don't have to take every listing that you are invited to, right? Have set some standards for yourself in your business about what listings you want to take and what kind of condition they need to be in before you agree to invest your time and money. Because at the end of the day, Keith, what happened with that relationship with that seller?
Oh, it's actually I still chat with them. There's one person I've basically had to just get rid of because it was a toxic
Okay,
relationship, but and it hasn't happened very often, like I think I've sold every single listing that I've had except
good
for
for you.
recently.
Sure.
But we're still friends. Everything's still
Okay.
good. It's just luckily for her, she actually would have kept the house on the market, and she did reduce the price, because I did advise her. I'm like, look, and I kind of had to have conversations with her about it, but luckily for her, but unfortunately, I guess she ended up with a big inheritance which paid everything off, and she
Okay.
just decided to keep the house.
Okay. Well, you got lucky too, because in my experience, that's not typically how it happens. It goes south very quickly, especially if
Oh
the
yeah.
listing expires, if they hire somebody new. And in my experience, what happens is the second listing agent is usually the winner because that second listing agent has convinced them what didn't work the first time that they were too stubborn to hear the first time.
Yeah.
And so the
Well,
second listing agent is very lucky that they get them to reduce the price and improve the condition. And then guess what? Usually within a couple of weeks of that second listing, they're under contract and they
yeah.
don't talk to you again sometimes.
For
So,
sure. Well, like I stayed in constant contact with her all through the whole thing. And then
yes,
also, like, she had particular needs. So, like, every single time that there was a showing, I was there personally. I took care of the dogs. I made sure the house was swept up and cleaned, and, because she wasn't always home and stuff, and she'd have
yeah,
pee pads and different things out. So, I, made sure everything was taken care of. So, she, like, highly recommended me. She's like, you have bent over backwards and did everything that you could to try to sell this house. And
yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
got
you,
showings and we got offers, but it just was never
yeah.
exactly what she wanted.
Well, I love that you just gave an example. Sometimes, Keith, we do have to roll up our own sleeves. And if the client's not willing to do the
Mhm.
baseboards or they're not willing to do certain things or they're just not capable, sometimes we have to decide for ourselves what are we willing to do, right?
Absolutely.
But that's ultimately your choice. And I love that
Right.
you showed up as the person that you are, regardless of the circumstances. You showed up to be the best agent for her. Even though she didn't get the results that she wanted, you put in all the effort. And so it's just a reminder
Absolutely.
that if your seller's not willing to do it, you have to decide for yourself what you're willing to take on and what you're willing to do. But I'm trying to encourage you guys to stop taking overpriced listings
Yeah,
that are not in
don't
the
do
right
it.
condition.
Don't do
Okay?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. You learned the lesson. All right. Anybody else that want to share market conditions that are different than what we've heard already? And the reason that I'm asking you guys to do this is something you need to be very good at. And if you guys have not done this, one of the takeaways that I want you to take from this, I want you to record a very quick video explanation about what's happening in your market and post that to your social media or your YouTube channel. It's a very quick video that says, hey, buyers in Fort Myers, I want you to know what's happening in Fort Myers right now. And I want you to explain to people what the market conditions are. If you are a seller, here's what you can expect. If you are a buyer, here's what you can expect in your market. This is something that your clients are relying on you to summarize and to be able to explain to people what they can expect. Okay, so that they're prepared. Everybody got that? Yes, perfect. Anybody else want to share market conditions before I move on? Is there anybody else in this call that has a market where things are moving a little faster? They're not sitting and slowing and not getting beat up by buyers. Anybody? We're all in the same boat paddling together. I know that's a lie because I know it's not true. No? Okay. Well, I do know that there's some markets and there's some price ranges where things are moving quicker. I would encourage you guys, if you are in a market where things are moving a little faster paced or a certain price range is moving at a faster pace, that you are prepared for structuring your offer to be competitive. If some of you are newer to the business, that you've never been in a multiple offer situation before, you need to get training in that. You need to go to your mentor or your area leader and say, I think I'm going to be in a multiple offer situation. Can you give me some strategies that will help me be successful? For most of us, we're not in a multiple offer situation right now. We're not in a multiple offer market. For most of us, you need to be able to explain to a buyer. I do want to say for Keith, when you were talking about your market conditions, I want you to be more specific in I know you were just giving us an example, just as a coach, I want to make sure I said it out loud. When you are giving examples to buyers and sellers about market conditions, I want you to tell them what can they expect. Here's my point. If you tell a buyer sellers are paying concessions and you have more negotiation power right now, I want you to talk in terms of context. When you tell me that I have negotiation power, I may not, if I'm a first time home buyer, I might not know what that even means, right? What I want to say is the seller giving a certain, on average, in your zip code? I can look in my MLS and go to a specific county and go to a specific zip code and look at all the solds, and I can see what the average is that these people have the sellers have been willing to pay um, of all the sales in the last 30 days. I can see that the sellers on an average are paying like 8 or 10 grand. So are you armed with the data to be able to tell sellers or buyers what they could expect? Or are you just saying you should expect to get offers that are lower than list price and you should expect to pay closing costs? Well, I want you to arm your sellers. How much closing costs should I be expected to pay? And that's
Hmm.
going to be different for every person. What you're going to tell that seller is it's going to be dependent on the offer. It's going to
Hmm.
be dependent on the terms of the offer that are acceptable to you. But let me show you what I've seen in the last 30 days in your county or in your neighborhood, right?
Hmm.
Is it Jolie? I'm coming to you next.
Yes.
Yes.
Um, so I'm in Jersey, but I just kind of jumped on. So has anybody
No, I'm
spoken
so
about
glad.
that in Jersey?
No, no, please
Oh,
do.
it is. I don't foresee it changing at all. It is
Okay.
such a seller's market. I just had 11 offers on a condo that sold for 30,000 over asking on a little condo.
Wow.
I had 8 offers on a colonial. They're still going for well over asking. It is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely insane for my buyers. It's pretty unfortunate. I just had an offer. We just went under contract 65,000 over asking.
Wow.
It's really stressful.
Yeah,
Like even as a listing agent, and I always present
agreed.
closing costs. I give them everything.
Sure.
Um, so at least they have that, including Jersey's famous realty transfer tax.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's just the same.
Yeah. Well, see, you're dealing with the opposite problem that some of us are dealing with, but that what you're dealing with is also equally stressful because buyers, if they've written 5, 6, 7 offers, they get frustrated. By the second offer, they're frustrated, right? They're
Right.
very concerned that they're not going to be successful. The sellers, all they see are dollar signs, so they're also hard to work with because they know they're going to sell their house in 5 minutes. And they don't see the value in what you're bringing to the table because remember, it's about the expectations that they have for us. They expect us to sell their house quickly, but when the market does it on its own and the house just because there's not a lot of houses for sale,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to question what our value is, right? They tend to question why they need us. And this is our opportunity, regardless of what kind of market you're in, to remind people what you actually do
Mm-hmm.
and all the things that you do and how you protect these clients at every step of the transaction, right? But I hear you. I know that it's very stressful when you're competing with other people and you feel like you have to give away the farm in order to be successful. This is also a dangerous place to be in. I remember from 2020 to 2023 in Nashville, I sold in Nashville for 15 years. And in that market, um, the concern was that in order to be competitive, these people had to throw stupid cash at a house, like you're talking about 70 grand over list price. The buyers were giving up their rights to inspection because they just wanted to be competitive. They were
Exactly.
giving up an appraisal because they had cash to make up the difference. The appraisal didn't matter, right?
Mhm.
They were overpaying. So now fast forward, it's 2026. A lot of those buyers that I represented in 2020, 2021, 2022 are now turning around trying to sell those same houses that they overpaid $100,000 for, and they
Mhm.
didn't do inspections. And now things are coming up on the inspection that are very problematic and very costly,
It,
right?
yeah,
So I'm
it's
seeing a lot
crazy.
of heads nodding. This is the problem with a fast market like that. You have a responsibility though as an agent to remind your clients that I know you're trying to be competitive, but don't give the farm away to be
Hmm.
competitive. You need to protect yourself and make sure that you are comfortable paying this amount of money and that you're not planning on selling that house anytime in the next X number of years because you will not recoup that money.
Hmm.
And you are now going to be responsible for the repairs that you didn't ask the seller to do because you were just trying to win, right?
Yeah, I
We still
never
have
let
an obligation.
I
Go
never
ahead,
let
I'm
my
sorry.
clients skip I never let them waive a you know what I'm saying,
Good, good.
inspection, but we
Sure.
do in Jersey use major issues only.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
other thing is I was not comfortable. We had no cash offers on that colonial.
Mm,
And I don't know if it's good or bad, but I
sure.
did talk to her about appraisal and I was worried because they gave a $10,000 gap with a
Mm-hmm.
$65,000 over asking offer, knowing that would never appraise.
Sure.
So whether it's
Sure.
good or bad, I did guide her that way, and we chose a middle
Sure.
offer at 535.
Yeah.
But you
I,
know,
I love it. And thank you for sharing that perspective
mhm,
because what you're talking about, a lot of agents in this room have never experienced. They've never seen it. They also do not have
lucky.
this is the other part, y'all, that you are responsible for right now. You have to improve your skill set. You have to improve your competency and what you are capable to do. At the end of the day, our job is to present the options to the client and let that client decide what is best for them. But some of you have not learned how to present all the options yet. And this is where I need you to get with a mentor. I need you to get with a coach. I need you to get with your area leaders or your people that are influential over your training and make sure that you have the skill set to navigate whatever the market conditions are right now in your market. Okay. But your job is to present options to the seller and let them decide what is the best option for them. You have to give them the pros and cons and what the good and bad is and say, based on what we have, here's what I need you to understand. The choice ultimately is theirs. Your job is to present the information, okay? Andrea, were you going to say something else? You had your finger up like this, like you had a thought.
I was gonna ask you a question actually. When you said
Sure.
improve your skill set,
Yeah,
I was gonna ask you what does that look like? So I understand the
great question.
presentation, but how are we getting to that? Where are we going for that? Are
Great
there any other
question.
things we need to throw in? Because
Yes,
I agree with you. You know,
yes,
it's and that's why everyone thinks we do nothing because we're
right.
unable to convey what we're actually doing. But I need
Mm-hmm.
to finally get to that point. Let me
That's
convey
a
all of the
great
things.
question. Thank you for asking it the way you did because I forget sometimes 27 years when I say you need to improve your skill set that some people don't know what that means. Like, what do you mean by that? So thank you for asking it that way. Number one, I think you need to be a beast on your local data and your local market. And what I mean by that is you should be checking the MLS every single day, checking to see what new houses are on the market, what went under contract, and what closed and then what didn't close, what withdrew or what expired. At the very minimum, well, whether you choose a subdivision or a zip code or a county does not matter to me. You choose the region that you want to specialize in. But at the very minimum, you need to know the data, right? How many months of inventory do we have? All of that is available to you in your MLS. What is the average list price to sales price ratio? And what I mean by that is if a seller lists their house for 500,000 but they end up selling it for 470, what percent of their list price did they get? How much on average are your sellers paying in in concessions. So in the MLS, a lot of the MLSs will have, did the seller pay any closing costs as a field that you have to enter in when you close out the listing. That data, y'all, is so important in creating a picture, not only for you, but also the appraiser. I want you to remember, if the house sold for 500, but the seller paid 20 grand in closing costs, did it really sell for 500? Right? Okay, so it's about knowing the data. And I want you, number one, is familiarize yourself with what's happening in your market. What's the average days on the market in certain zip codes, in certain school zones? You must be the expert in your 5 mile radius about what's selling, what's not selling, and what is it going to take to sell, and what could people expect. Number one, I think that's where you start with your MLS. Okay. Number two, you have to get better at overcoming objections, because right now that's all we're getting hit with are objections. I'm not feeling very secure about my job security, so I don't want to buy a house. We think we're going to wait because people are telling us the market's going to crash. We can't afford to buy at the interest rates the way that they are. Sellers might say, I don't want to sell because I don't know where I'm going to go. I can't afford to buy what I currently have in my same area if I sell, right? Like there's a lot of objections that we're being hit with, and you need to know how to respond to those objections, how to make your client feel heard and understood. And then what options do you give them that break down the objection? Because here's the part that what we're not doing, what I'm not seeing, is we are not building confidence in our clients that now is a good time to buy. We're telling them, okay, well, if you want to wait, I'll check back in with you in 6 months to a year. But have you calculated or shown the client what the cost of waiting a year looks like? In New Jersey, what could the price be a year later if people are overpaying by 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000? Are they going to be able to afford it in a year? Right now, when they have the ability to buy down the rate, right? If we were able to negotiate with the seller to get some concessions paid and you use some of that money to buy down the interest rate, does that make it more affordable for you? Right? The other part about home ownership is we're dealing with a lot of noise right now, and there's a lot of economic factors that are impacting the buyer's decision to buy right now. So gas is over $4 in a lot of places, right? 4.25 in some places. Our cost of food has risen by like 38% across the board, if not higher on some articles, right? We're in the middle of a war, supposedly. I don't even know if we still are. I don't watch the news anymore, so I don't know if we are or aren't, but I think we still are. But a war also causes a problem. We don't have job security. There's a lot of people being laid off right now, so that's also a concern for people. There's a lot of unsettling things happening around the country that people just don't feel confident, right? So, as an agent, one of the ways that you can improve your skill set is, how do I explain to people that now is as good a time to get in the market as any? Because it doesn't matter really when you get into the market, is are you building long-term wealth? Are you creating assets for yourself that are long-term wealth for generations? Are you paying rent in a place where you're going to have to move out every year or a couple years, or your rent goes up every month or every year because you're not in a solid place? Like that's stability, right? When you buy a house. Are you armed with all of the information that you need to convince a client that, not convince, but to help them feel like now is as good a time as any to get into the market? Have you armed yourself with that information about why now is a decent time to buy? Okay. The next thing is your presentations. Are they on point? And this is the part, as a coach, I kind of laugh sometimes because I do coach people who have been in this business for 15, 16 years, and they will tell me they've never had a formal listing presentation and they've never needed one. And what I would say to that is that I feel like your clients probably have gotten a disservice, because even if you know that that seller is going to hire you, let's say they're your best friend since elementary school and they've already told you they're going to list with you and nobody else, and you skip that presentation, When the house sits on the market a little bit longer than your best friend from childhood thinks it should have, you're not getting the activity that you think that they think you should have, you're not getting offers in the time frame that you want. The first thing that goes through that seller's mind is, did I make a mistake in who I hired? They start to question whether or not you were the right hire. The other problem is when you skip the presentation because you've already earned the business, your client does not know what you are doing to market and sell their house, especially if you're not doing a weekly report with the seller telling them what activity you've had, what your focus is this week, where are you promoting the house this week, and what our plan is to get an offer this week. If you're skipping that weekly report to the seller, it means you're probably not holding yourself accountable to the activities that you need to be doing to get that house sold. And in the absence of communication, breeds assumption. You do not want your clients assuming that you're not working, that you're not doing everything within your power to sell that house. See, Keith had a relationship with that agent and she saw firsthand what all he was doing to help prepare for showings and whatnot. But if Keith is not sharing with her what his marketing plan is week by week or where all he promoted it, when the house is not selling, the first question that they ask is, well, what are you doing to sell my house? And they start to think, well, maybe you're not doing this or that because you skipped your presentation. They don't know. So don't do that. Okay. Get really good at your presentation. Get really good. And all sellers, is it Fiza? I'm coming to you in just a minute. And if I mispronounced your name, I'm so sorry, but give me 1 second. Um, at the end of the day, all sellers have the same questions. I don't care who they are. I don't care how much the price of the house is. They all have the same questions. One is, how much is my house worth? The second one is, how long is it going to take to sell? Right? What are the average days on the market? The third one is going to be, what is your fee? And the fourth one is, what are you going to do to sell my house? So if you skip your presentation, you are leaving that seller with one question unanswered, even if you've already earned the business. Does that make sense? So I want you to get really good at knowing your data. I want you to get really good at overcoming objections that you might hear from your buyers and sellers. And I want you to get really good at your presentations, your skill set. What are you doing to represent your clients that is different than other people and that shows that you are the person of choice? Okay. Faiza, I'm coming back to you. Ready for you now. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. You pronounce my name perfectly fine.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Sure.
So, it's a very good way you're explaining. I love it. Same way we should go for buyers too, like the
Yes.
weekly report and all that.
Yes, absolutely. Because your buyers are getting weary because they're looking at a lot of crap right now in the market. They're looking at a bunch of junk that they're not really willing to write an offer on. And I forget who said it. It may have been Andrea, but the conditions that these people are expecting, they want the HGTV house, the move-in ready house, and they're not wanting to DIY. They're not wanting to live in a construction zone for a year. And at the cost of borrowing money being so high right now to them, it's still not high. You got to remember when I got into this business and dinosaurs were roaming the earth, the interest rates were double digits. You know, I bought my first house at like 14% interest. So they don't really know that this isn't that high. It's just high compared to the low rates that we've had historically for the last few years, right? But at the end of the day, they're not willing to pay $3,000 a month for a mortgage on a house that is not in the condition that it needs a lot of work, right? That's not acceptable to them. They want the house to be in the right. So because of that, they're growing weary of looking at properties or finding the house that meets their needs. Your job is to remind them that we're not looking for 100% perfection. We're looking for 90% of your wish list because 100% may not exist and it may not exist at the price range that you want. But if you would be happy with 90%, I'm pretty sure I can find you what we're looking for at 90%, right? It's reminding of that. And 100%, Faiza, I think you do need to check in weekly with your buyers to make sure that they're not getting fatigued, that they're not, you want them to enjoy the process, right? One time I had a client that she could only go look at houses at 4:30 in the afternoon when she got off work Monday through Friday because she had grandkids on the weekends or something. And by the fourth day, I could tell that she was no longer excited about looking at houses. I could tell she was very frustrated. And when I asked her about it, I noticed that at 4:30, the traffic is the worst that it could possibly be in Nashville. And the area she wanted to look at was 45 minutes away from her work. So she was sitting in traffic for 40 some minutes to get to the place to look at the houses. And then when we get to the houses, they're junk. They're not anything she would buy. So you can imagine she's not enjoying this experience, right? So what we decided to do was to regroup and say, hey, let's see if we can make arrangements for your grandkids on one Saturday. Let's make 6 or 7 houses or 5 houses on the Saturday. And let's do a little bit of homework before we go look at the houses. I want you to do the Google Earth view, and I want you to look at everything online and evaluate the distance to work and all of those things before we ever make an appointment so that you're not wasting your time or mine looking at junk that does not meet your criteria. Right? And you're not sitting in traffic for 45 minutes at 4:30. That's not fun. Okay? All right, I hope that answered your question, but I do think you should be communicating with your clients, whether they're the buyer or the seller, at least once a week to explain what your focus is this week, what you plan on doing to help them achieve their goals this week, and what the plan is. Okay? So this brings me to my next question, and I wanted to ask you guys about this. Have you ever thought about charging your clients a retainer fee? And I'm seeing this come up more and more and more. In 27 years, I've seen retainer fees come and go. I've seen agents who have consistently charged retainer fees since day one. I've seen people who do it as a response to the market right now. And so I want to know your thoughts about a retainer fee. So before I ask you, let me give you an explanation. There are agents who charge their buyer clients a flat retainer fee to help them cover the costs of time and gas and the time that it's taking because some of these buyers are looking at 70, 80 houses, which I'm going to tell you absolutely not. I'm never showing a buyer 70 houses ever. But there are agents who charge a retainer fee as a way to, and then that retainer fee is credited back to them at closing if they do end up going through with the purchase of the house. There are other clients that on the seller side will charge their client a retainer fee, which helps them cover the cost of upfront marketing or photos or whatever that is. And so I just wanted to talk about it. What do you guys think and how do you feel about a retainer fee?
Well, I feel like I need to charge one. I just need more scripting around that
Okay.
conversation because so many agents don't. However, I had a client, I knew I needed to fire her. Didn't fire her in time, hit a pothole on the last showing. She ended up not getting a property and I spent $1,400 fixing my car.
You
I
drive a
said,
nice car.
oh, well, I do, but pissed me off.
Yeah, yeah. And see, here's the thing. The reason that I'm asking this question is because it's been asked a lot to me by a lot of my coaching clients recently, and that is because they are dealing with sellers that take their house off of the market after I've invested $2,000 in photos and marketing. They've just decided that they've changed their mind, and now I'm out that money. So I do think sometimes that's a good protection for you in your listing agreements that say if if for any reason that you withdraw this house from the market, that I would be reimbursed for my expenses because I want you guys to remember you're investing time, energy, and money in somebody else's house in the hopes that it sells, right? And so some people are charging that in the event that the people terminate. I have agents that are charging a flat retainer fee. It's like $500 for a buyer. And that is just to commit to them because for the time that they're looking, I'm going to be dedicating a lot of time to them to jump up and go show them a house when they find one that they like, or I'm spending a lot in gas. I live in the mountains. And in order to go look at some houses, you have to drive all the way around the mountain or through the Pisgah National Forest in order to get there. And that could be an hour to drive at $4 and something a gallon, right? So, and what if that person doesn't ever buy anything? This is just the investment that I made for some people. Jeff, I'm coming to you. What do you think about this, about charging retainer fees?
Yeah. So what's the success of this? I don't disagree with the logic. But on average, let's say you got, out of 10 attempts to do this, what's the success rate? 90%, 20%?
Well, I think it's all going to determine how you present it, right? So it's all in the presentation of the fee to the client.
So
Number
no one
one,
has no one has told you like I'm 20% successful with this.
Well, the agents that I know that are using it, they have 100% success because they don't work with the people unless they agree to pay their fee. So for them, it's up, they're either gonna work with them or they're not. And the way that they've presented it is in a way that they have already built and established the rapport and the relationship with the client that the client doesn't mind paying it because they're going to get a credit for it anyway when they close. It's really it's kind of a security blanket, a guarantee, if you will, of hey, I know you're going to buy a house, but this is just to protect me in the event that something happens. It's to protect the time that I've invested in you thus far, or the money that I've invested in marketing your property thus far. And the circumstances change, you lose your job, you get relocated, there's a life event that happens, and you do have to take your house off the market. I'm not losing $2,500 in that process. It's all in the presentation of how you do it.
Right.
I'm not here to tell
Okay.
you guys that it is something you should do or shouldn't do. I wanted to have a discussion about what you guys think about it because I'm seeing a lot more of it. And it's going to be determined, the success rate of it is going to be determined in how you present it to the client. If it is all about you and protecting you, you're going to have hesitation, you're going to have pushback. But if it is about, listen, I want to give you my A time, and I have to choose who gets my A time all day, right? This is what guarantees to me that when I put you first, you're also putting me first. We are prioritizing each other, right?
No, I
Andrea,
like it.
I could talk
I
all
like
day
it.
to you. Go ahead.
No, I like it. And I don't, again, I don't disagree with the logic of it.
Sure.
And you said you're in the Nashville market, right?
I'm in Asheville, but I serve Nashville and Asheville. So from Nashville to Asheville, I'm running a team in both states. Yes, in both areas.
Okay. All right. I know, yeah, I know Nashville's got, I don't know about Asheville, but the little I do know is, that area got hit, it was neglected. It's
Yeah.
rebuilding. It's getting back up on its legs. Um, but Nashville, I know, is growing. It's like 700,000 or 800,000 people, and I mean they can't build houses fast enough there. I was just
Yeah.
there for last year for a
Sure.
conference.
Sure.
So
So in Asheville, one of the reasons why the retainer fee is not such an issue here in Asheville too is because we have a lot of second home property buyers and vacation rentals here. This is a tourist town. Those people know that we get people all day long that are looking at houses and are tire kickers. They're here on vacation and they want us to show them houses. And so a retainer fee becomes a more of a norm in a tourist town and acceptable because you can't just go showing houses to everybody who's not 100% serious, and that protects your time and interest, and people are more receptive to it. In Nashville, the retainer fee does not go over very well. And that is because you'll have lots of people who are willing to do it for free. They're not going to charge you a retainer fee. So that is the other part that you're competing with is there will always be somebody who's going to do it for cheaper or for less money. There's always somebody. Right now, there's people in my market that will take some seller's house, put it on the MLS, charge them a flat fee, and do nothing. There's always someone who will do it cheaper, right? At the end of the day, what I want for you is this is your business. You are the CEO of this business. You happen to work for a company that is holding your license and supervising you, but this is your business. You get to make decisions about protecting your time, energy, and money. This is one strategy that I just wanted to talk about because, at the very least, even if you don't charge a retainer fee to your buyers, are you protecting yourself against fickle sellers? Are you protecting yourself against sellers who have high demands and expectations that maybe you can't meet? And what I mean by that is I have one seller that I walked away from last week that had super unrealistic expectations that their house is about 50 grand overpriced. They want a contract on their house no later than June 10th. Do you see what today is? Right?
yeah,
And
right.
I already know I'm not going to be able to meet those expectations. So if I were going to take that listing, you better believe I would have a protection to get my money back because I do not believe that I will be capable of selling the house at that price range or in that timeline. But instead of charging a retainer fee or putting that in my agreement, I walked away from that listing, which is an $800,000 listing because I'm not in alignment with that seller and I cannot produce the results that I know that they're going to want and that they are expecting from me. Now, there are other people, especially in the Agent Alliance, that I would tell you Chris Raines would probably fall over and die if he heard me tell you to walk away from a listing because that's not his strategy, right? I'll tell you right now, Walt would never probably walk away from a listing either. They're just, we have different ways of doing things. But I will tell you, after 27 years, I have learned to better determine who gets the benefit of my time and my money, and that I am willing to walk away from things that are not in alignment with me. Because at the end of the day, that client has expectations for me that I cannot meet. And at the end of the day, they are expecting me to produce a result that I cannot produce. Right. And so I just wanted to see what you guys felt about it. I want to talk about one other thing because I'm also seeing this in the last few minutes that we have. Have any of you guys seen any low appraisals coming back yet? This is the other area, Andrea, where I'm telling you to sharpen your saw and your skill set, is that you guys need to practice CMAs. I would ask you to ask your mentors or to go into the MLS and choose a brand new listing and run a CMA on it as practice. Do you feel like it's overpriced? Because this is the one area that we as agents, it is very subjective. I could line up 50 agents and give them one address, and I promise you, you guys will give me 50 different values. Right? And because
Yes.
people do not teach agents how to evaluate the property and what it's worth, because we don't have a book like appraisers do. Andrea, I'm taking you to all my classes because I love watching you when I say something that hits, girl. I'm taking you to everyone because I need you and that energy in my life. What I'm saying is that these appraisals, they're not worth the paper that they're written on because most of the appraisers get a copy of the contract. So they already know the number that they're trying to hit, right? So is that really a true valuation of the property if you're telling me what number we're shooting for? No. Number
No.
two, the skill set that you need to learn is how to properly price a property. You guys, most agents have never learned how much value do you give to stainless steel appliances or granite countertops or hardwood floors, or the difference between a fourth bedroom versus a third bedroom, or how much do you count subterranean, like basement square footage. Most of us are not trained how to do any of that. So sellers are relying on us to give them a value of their house when we don't have the skill set needed to properly price a house. Some of you do not practice doing CMAs at all until you get a seller that says, "Can you tell me what my house is worth?" If you're not doing CMAs on a regular basis and studying the market, you are not utilizing that skill the way that you need to. My advice to you is, number one, you need to study what's happening in the MLS. You're going to see how much money is given towards certain concessions. You're going to see what buyers are willing to pay for those concessions or for those conditions or those upgrades. The second thing is, if you ever have a class in your market that says ask an appraiser or to meet with an appraiser, go to that class so that you can learn how much value do I give to certain things. How do I price properties? So this is the one area where I can tell you to work on your skill set. You need to practice CMAs. And if you have a mentor or a coach or somebody that once a week just gives you an address that you can run a CMA and give them and get feedback, that is how you're going to get better at it. But I would encourage you to at least try to do 2 or 3 CMAs a week, because that is what's going to sharpen that skill set and is going to help you get better about being analytical. Now, I know most of y'all are literally going into Chat GPT saying, "Can you help me come up with a market analysis for 123 Main Street?" Right? Now, this is part of what's wrong with our industry, right? Because you're relying on Chat GPT to tell you what the value of a house is, and the seller is hiring a local realtor because the local realtor knows how to assess value on the things that my house has. The fact that I have a new roof, I have a new HVAC, I have all new flooring, I just replaced my septic, I just put on new gutters. Those are all things that matter in terms of evaluating the value of a house. And are you getting better at that? And what do you do? When you get a complicated one, who do you go to for help? Because not all of these houses that you're going to do CMAs on are what I call softballs. Softballs are like you're doing a CMA in a neighborhood where there's only like 5 floor plans and people move in and out of the neighborhood, and there's plenty of sales for you to be able to say, what does this house sell on average price per square foot, right? Most houses, a lot of times we get are not in that criteria. They're like a house that was built in 1899 and it's historical, or it's in the middle of a neighborhood where all the houses around it are a different value, or this is a house that built in the 60s and all the houses around it are new. You're going to have challenges like that. You need to have a mentor to help you give you some feedback about how on spot are you with the pricing. Bottom line, I want to tell you is that if you're getting appraisals that come in low, your first step, and first of all, you need to be proactive. When you have, if it's your listing, you should be providing a pre-appraisal, a packet to that appraiser that has a list of upgrades, renovations, repairs that have been done to the house, the comps that you used when you priced the property. If you're not providing that to the appraiser, guess what? You are basically being reactive to a very important process in this whole transaction that could go sideways all because you didn't do your homework before that happened. So my advice is you prepare a packet for the appraiser. That way you are not reactive to the appraiser. You're helping guide the appraiser to the value that you gave it when you put it on the market. Now, if you were wrong when you priced it, you're going to be wrong on the appraisal. But at least you're not being reactive to the process. You're being proactive by providing the list of upgrades and renovations and repairs that they've made. And you're giving them the comps that you used to price the property to begin with. Does that make sense to everybody? When the appraisal comes back low, your first agenda needs to be checking the comps checking the appraisal itself, making sure it's accurate. Are there things that are wrong in the appraisal? And in my experience, a lot of times they're using comps that are not they're not similar to the subject property. Maybe they're way older. Maybe they're way out of the area. Maybe they're not even close to being comparables. They're just using it because that was the only sale that they could find, right? So you want to check it for accuracy. Step number 2 is you're going to go back to the bank, the lender, and say, I've got a problem with this appraisal. It came in 15,000 low. Here are the comps that I used when I priced the property. Here's a list of the upgrades. You can either ask the bank to do a second appraisal. Sometimes they will do that. Sometimes they'll reach out through the portal and ask the appraiser to amend their appraisal. Some of these appraisers are pissed off that you're questioning their work and they won't edit anything. And now you're going to have to go back and negotiate. But I am seeing more and more appraisals coming in low, and I want you guys to be prepared that the only way that you can avoid that is stop overpricing the houses to begin with, err on the side of conserving a little bit, be a little bit more conservative in your pricing as a strategy, right? You want your seller to get top dollar, but you don't add an extra 10% because you like them more or because you think the house across the street is a little uglier. That's not how you price the property, okay? So, we talked about retainer fees, tough negotiations. We're out of time today, but this is something we can talk about again in the future. I'm super grateful that you guys are here. I want you guys to take away from this. I want you to be able to explain to people what are happening in your market. I want you to be able to explain to potential buyers why now is a good time to buy. I want you to explain to potential sellers what they can expect. Andrea asked me, how do I calculate the cost of waiting? This is a simple thing. If any of you work with Kevin Kennerson at Lending Hand Mortgage, he has a graphic that shows the cost of waiting that he can help connect you with. Or your lender probably has something similar to that as well. But you also can show a client, if you can pull a house that closed a year ago and run a CMA and show what that house is worth today and how much equity that person would have created in a year, plus the tax deduction that they got for a year, plus the stability of not having to move their kids to another school or another house, you can create that cost of waiting graphic. Does that make sense? Perfect. That's a great, I love the questions you're asking. Marketing help, girl. I could help. What's a normal charge? Kim asked me about the retainer fee. On the buyer's side, I typically see anywhere between $300 and $500. I have seen 1,000 depending on what the client is looking for. If it is a vacant lot and they're going to build something on, that is a little challenging because I have to find a lot that has usually they want utilities already at the street or on the lot. It has to be able to perk for what they want to build on it. So now we're talking, has anyone done a soil test? There's a lot to buying land, and I might charge a higher retainer fee for land purchase than I would on a regular resale house, right? If that makes sense. Um, I've tried to charge that and I hear back none of the other realtors we'd interviewed are not charging that. We're not paying that. So can you waive it? So I have till more of us start this, it's hard to collect. And I do agree with you there, except for the fact that, again, when you present yourself as a professional and you're presenting with value first about what you bring to the table that's different than these other realtors, I will always say, I can always find somebody that will do it for you for free or cheaper than me. But you have to ask yourself, are you hiring me because of what I charge or because you believe I'm the best person to represent you? And if they want the person that charges the least amount of money, go ahead and go hire somebody else then, right? Because I'm not a discount value broker. I'm not a discount realtor. I'm worth every penny that I charge. Okay. Erica, I have a PA family that is moving to North Carolina. Their home was under contract. We're under contract here. Their Pennsylvania home appraised 60K under the offer price. Whew. Erica, I hope that good to see you here. Thanks for being here. I hope that you navigated that. Again, my question would be, did that listing agent in PA offer a pre-appraisal packet to kind of try to help ward that off? Again, I'm all about being proactive to the market, not reactive to what all happens. Okay. There used to be a website to find that stuff. Does anybody know what that is? I'm assuming that you're talking about how much value each thing in the house is worth. There is actually the appraiser's handbook that you can buy that gives a monetary value to that, but we don't price properties that way. So I don't know that that would be helpful to you, but you could always buy that if you felt like you needed that. Faith, I got you, girl. In bedrooms, Felicia, I don't usually price 4 bedrooms versus 3. I usually price based on overall heated square footage, not the number of bedrooms, because I could have a 4 bedroom house, but the bedrooms are 8 by 10. That's not very much value if the bedroom's so tiny it's like a closet. I'm not going to really give a lot of value to that fourth bedroom if the same house that's a comp is 3 bedrooms and it has the same square footage. I might not bump that up for a fourth bedroom, if that makes any sense. I use more heated square footage to price than the number of bedrooms.
Okay.
Do you typically advise the seller to do a pre-listing appraisal? No. Unless it is a really hard property to price, a very unique property like a log cabin, a historical property, or some property that is just very unique that I'm having a really hard time pricing, I would not advise my seller to pay for a pre-listing appraisal because in my experience, and I know y'all are going to think I'm crazy, but in my experience, I probably am crazy, but the sellers who've hired an appraiser first, that appraisal that they get is not the same as a resale appraisal that I get that is hired by the bank, if that makes any sense. So sometimes it's giving the seller a false sense of value because they had it appraised. But you have to remember, if you hire an appraisal outside of the normal resale process, they may be giving an inflated value because you paid them directly versus the lender paying them. And now your seller thinks their house is worth 1.2 million and on the market, it's actually probably only worth 950. Right. So I don't ever advise them to do a pre-listing appraisal. In this kind of market that I'm in Asheville, I do advise my sellers to do, and this is a point of contention too that people will disagree with me about, and that's okay. I do like to have, if they've lived in that house a long time or they waived an appraisal, I will advise them that they may want to do an inspection prior to going on the market, because then we can remedy some of the things that might spook a buyer. But then you have disclosure issues that you have to be aware of. So it has pros and cons. This is why I said people might argue with me. How do I get all of this knowledge? Girl, you stay close to me and that's how I give you all this knowledge. So you keep showing up for classes like this, you keep asking questions like you are. And if you need more individual one-on-one help, you reach out to me directly and we help you with that. Okay. But you're in the right rooms. you're asking the right questions, and you're doing the right things, and that's how you learn. Okay. I'm happy that you're here, and I'm really grateful that you care enough about your career that you want to be a better agent. And that's all I care about. And I'll pour into anybody that has that a goal and that agenda. Okay. How do you feel about an appraisal prior to closing on a new build? We talked about that just now. I don't find that it has much value. I think that it's a waste of money. I'd rather them spend the money on improving their curb appeal or deep cleaning their house. Okay. So, or staging or whatever that looks like. All right. Before I know I ran over, any other questions that anybody might have for me? Thank you for being here. I hope this was a little helpful. I know it wasn't a one topic, it was kind of a discussion. And I just wanted to say that Robert is he's silly if he thinks people won't show up for these kinds of discussions because y'all are here and you did it and you proved us wrong. So thanks for being here. Thanks for your participation. Faith asked me, where can I get your coaching info? Faith, you're already on my short list thanks to your friend Sybil. So I'm going to be reaching out to you today. But you guys can find me at realsuccessblueprint.com. Or you can follow me on social media. I'm Laura Dahl on Facebook or Laura Dahl Broker on Instagram. But I do have agent masterminds once a month that are free to any agent in the country, anywhere. We're not in a gang. You guys are always welcome to come. And those are on usually the first Thursday of every month. And you can go to agentmastermind2026.com for that full schedule. I hope that you guys go kill it today. Go be the rock stars that I know you are. Provide better service to your clients. Demand a little bit better of for yourself. Protect your own interests and your own money, and protect your mental health as well. Do not let these people beat you up. Do not let these people abuse you. Do not let these people be mean to you. You are running a business and they need to treat you as a professional. And if they're not, then we have not shown them enough value to warrant that kind of behavior or warrant them to treat us differently. So show up better and show up as the professional you want and demand that you are treated as such. Okay? Go out there and kill it today, y'all. Have a good one. Thanks so much for being here. Good to see so many of your faces.